This is Recovery Lifestyles with Carmel. Recovery Lifestyles is about courage, connection, and freedom. These are stories from men and women who have had the courage to be vulnerable and share how they have overcome addiction and mental health. We connect on Recovery Lifestyles as a way to let others know that they are not alone. On today's show, I'll be speaking with Joy, who has been speaking to women for over 15 years, both nationally and internationally. Joy can be heard on Moody Radio, Cleveland, WCRF, as a part of the Pause for Prayer team. She is the author of the book, The Great Cover-Up, and hosts the Running in Flats podcast. Today, Joy will share vulnerably how in 2010 her life became unrecognizable. On a journey that only God could orchestrate, she found herself working in a homeless shelter with women and children. In 2016, Joy's passion for women in crisis and the gospel took on her new adventure. Joy currently serves women at Pregnancy Solutions, a crisis pregnancy center in Akron, Ohio. Hi, Joy. How's it going?
It's going great. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Yes. Merry Christmas to you as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with myself and my audience today.
Mm-hmm.
And I just look forward to what you're going to share because have a conversation.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate your flexibility, and it's nice to take a break even from all the celebrating to just to sit and chat.
Yeah, pause.
Pause is a good word. Yes.
So did you want to share a little bit about who you are and maybe more about your journey?
Yeah, I'd love to. So who I am? Well, I live in the Northeast Ohio area, married, 4 adult children, 3 grandchildren. In fact, I don't know if they could even pop down here at any moment. They're visiting me for the holidays, and I just kind of stepped out of the room for a little bit. And so have always worked in like the nonprofit sector. Right now, I am working with women who are facing crisis pregnancies. And besides my full-time job, I am a speaker and a writer, and have a podcast of my own. And probably the premise for all 3 of those things, and even my work that I do at the pregnancy center, just has to do with my passion, mostly for walking with women who are in crisis. And this became probably, so I've been kind of doing that for about 15 years, whether it be like right now in crisis pregnancy ministry, but I've also worked a lot of years with women experiencing homelessness. But probably about 3 years ago, I kind of had a turning point of my own where I was the woman in crisis, and I saw the value of people coming alongside me. So my journey that I think you and I connected with when we were talking is I probably for about 10 to 12 years have always kind of in some small or large way had, I'll just say, battling depression, anxiety, and worry, which is, I feel like the trifecta sometimes for a lot of people. They all seem to kind of come together. And for a lot of years, I was managing it very well, would have my ups and downs, but I'm a huge proponent of counseling and just some tools that I have received from some amazing counselors. I have sought assistance from my medical doctors. I was managing pretty well and was able to really live a pretty thriving life. And then an opportunity came in my life for me to kind of take on a bigger career opportunity, leading a pretty large organization. And, in the back of my mind, I think I always knew that maybe I wasn't quite ready for this, but for me, ambition, I can be overly ambitious, and that's not always a good thing, know my own boundaries. And so
I can relate.
Can you?
I can.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're stopped.
Ambition is great, but I think like anything else, like you just kind of have to know your boundaries. And so I was kind of chasing this job, and I got it and realized that this job was giving me so much more than just a paycheck and a big office and a lot of perks and a lot of authority and power. I realized about 6 months into the job, this job was giving me identity. And I was getting identity out of who I was at this organization, and what my role was and what I was achieving. And I was starting to feel this unsettledness. Now, for me, my faith is in Jesus. And I would say that for me, that was a conviction that I was feeling, that where I was, my life wasn't balanced. My career was really starting to overtake just about every part of my life. And even things that I used to enjoy, I was saying no to, because I always wanted to be available for this position. And it started requiring a lot of me, more than I was starting to feel that I could physically give. But also got to the point where it was more than I could mentally give. But because when you have your identity in something, I was holding on to this so tightly. And the only way I can describe it is I really truly felt like I was kind of spiraling out of control. Everything from just relationships to rest to personal care. This job was just really taking everything out of me. And I sought some great counsel. And this person said, we know, Joy, sometimes we're too close to the situation that we can't be our best. We can't see it objectively. I want you to go home and I want you to ask your family to evaluate who mom is now. And everybody, all four of my children, and even my spouse, lovingly said, "You're not you anymore."
Wow.
And so that was hard to hear, but I needed to hear what I wasn't seeing. And so I come to the conclusion that I needed to walk away. And that was really hard to do, because I had everything that who I was in this job, in this career. And so the day that I was no longer in this position, in a very unexpected way, I just found myself what I describe as a pretty big mental breakdown. And what I mean by that is the depression, the worry, the anxiety that I was managing before, I wasn't managing at all. In fact, I wasn't even thriving. I was only in bed, and as an empty nester at this time, I had the sort of freedom to do that, but probably wasn't to my best interest, but really spent weeks and days in bed, not eating, not drinking, cutting off family and friends. And just really only way I can describe it is I just felt like I was in this really deep, dark pit, just looking up with no handle to grab onto. And finally, I started to gradually let people into my life besides my husband. He was the only one that was really privy to all of this, and gradually started climbing out of that pit. And I climbed.
Isolation. I just hear you talking about that isolation, right? That's such a place to be. And it is hard. To reach out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there was a lot of reasons why I didn't want to reach out. I didn't want anybody else to know that I didn't have it together. I didn't want anybody else to know at the time. I still felt a little stigma to maybe come out and say that I struggle with mental illness. I think that's definitely not the case now. I would shout from the rooftop if the opportunity came, and we can talk about that. But I think I remember thinking to myself, I had to care more about getting better than what I thought people would think.
That's powerful.
It is powerful, because you know what? When I began to tell people what I was struggling with, they did think of me different, but in a good way. They appreciated my honesty. They appreciated my vulnerability, and they also appreciated the opportunity for them to say, "Me too." I think we hear those words now, unfortunately, in the realm of sexual abuse. But those words are so powerful in any journey that we're going through, that we're a little further ahead than somebody else. So that kind of turned to my passion. I mean, it was 3 years in November that I kind of went through this. And as a woman of faith, I can honestly tell you without fear, I would go through it again to get where I am spiritually, emotionally, physically, and even professionally. I am in a career now that I love, that when I come home at night, it stays there, where it is not, it is such a small part of my life. But the part of my life that it is I love it. I look forward to going. And I probably have never felt more balanced in all my life. And I want other people to know that there is hope and there is healing. And, for me as a woman of faith, God talks about giving us this abundant life. And that life, when I'm not leaving bed for 16 days, that's not an abundant life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to back up a few, and because something you touched on about, being a woman of faith and allowing your identity to be and your worth to be what you are doing and what you are achieving. And I think a lot of people do struggle with that. I think that a lot of women that I speak with, and men included, that they have spent their lives chasing, and maybe they do not have faith, or maybe they don't understand their faith quite yet. They're just on the journey. And I think that they have spent, and I can speak for myself too, I've gone through this, where it was the more I achieved, the more credentials, those sort of things, that was what I attached my worth to.
Right.
And I always ended up empty. And it wasn't until I was forced to slow down, and I can't tell you how many times I've been forced to slow down.
Right.
It's funny how that happens. It's like, oh, you didn't learn the lesson again.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be much better if it had been our decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right.
What was it for you? I know I hear you speak of going into the depression and being in bed for 16 days, but what was it for you that was the turning point? Was it your children, or was it just your feeling? Like, I'm just thinking, for anyone out there listening, that might have an inkling that this can be going on.
Right. Yeah. Well, for me, like I said, my children are at this time, well, now they were all adults. They were all out of the house. So I could hide this very well. But I think for me, it was just the kind of that catalyst to getting better was, it was my faith. It was being reminded that of who I am in Christ.
Yeah.
And that this is not who He has called me to be. And this is not who He has equipped me to be. And so I would really say I'm a big proponent of prayer. And I know that, and now that I'm better, and people start, I couldn't believe how many people had me on different prayer chains and stuff. So I give a lot of credit. I give all the glory and credit to God, but I believe prayer is what changed my heart to start wanting to get better. And probably a big thing was, I have a dear friend that when I opened up the door, literally and figuratively, to her to come in, to see what I was actually, the impact it was having on other people. And I felt, this is not fair to them. This is not fair to my husband. It's not fair to my children. It's not fair to my friends. But you know what? God has gifted me to do things, and I can't do those things when I'm lying in bed. So I think it was just, I was reminded of who I was in Christ. And I also want people to know that, I talk about my faith being a huge part of my healing. And unfortunately, I think people of faith are not open to talking about mental illness, because sometimes it hasn't been taken seriously in the church, where I don't know why our brain, the organ of our brain, is treated differently than if I had a kidney issue.
Yeah.
People sometimes,
it's the same with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. When they say, well, just, is there a sin in your life, or pray more? Well, if I had diabetes, would you tell me, yeah, pray, but is that what's, do I not go and seek other resources to get help? Do I not seek medication? Do I not seek professional help? Yes, you do. And that has no reflection on how strong of a Christian you are, or how, and I just want people to know that our brain is an organ. And if it's not functioning properly, we need to get help. And I appreciate the comparison, to people who are going through other areas of recovery. So I guess to answer your question is, I really felt like God was reminding me, Joy, you are a child of mine. and this is not the life I have for you. I need you to get out of this bed. I need you to do things. And through that, Joy, I just need you to take the next step. And what I did, I just kind of took one day. It was a victory for me just to get out of bed and go to sit on the patio. And the same in recovery, we just need to take the next step and trust. Yeah.
And so the women that you work for, do they have faith? The women that you work for, like now you're with women in trauma?
With crisis pregnancy. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we're a faith-based agency. So people don't necessarily come to us because they want a faith-based program. They come to us because they need help with their pregnancy. Yeah. And I have learned so much about trauma working there. I think I used to always think trauma had to be something that was this huge thing. I mean, not that trauma is not huge, but like even a young girl pregnant at 13 is experiencing trauma.
Yeah.
That
was one of the biggest things that I learned many years ago, was that it doesn't matter how big or how small the trauma is, it affects you the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. So, and I love what someone shared with me one day. We are all recovering from something.
Oh, we are.
We are.
It's my whole world.
And we need to acknowledge that and say, you know what? We're all a mess, aren't we? And I in the Christian world, you hear a lot of people say, well, what's your testimony? Without a test, you don't have a testimony. And a lot of times when I'm speaking to women, I'll say, what's your mess-timony? Like, what is the mess that you found yourself in that you are now on the other side of? What is your mess-timony?
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah, you can use it. Yeah.
I like that. Your messimony.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to start?
Right. Which one?
Yeah. I think that opens up for people to be vulnerable, and to be vulnerable, you need to feel safe. And I think by making that, just the term that you use there makes it feel a little more inviting to be like, okay.
Yeah.
You have a mess too, don't you?
We all have a mess. And I think if we shared our messes, because all we see online are all the, especially like this time of year, like I was even thinking like last night, I was scrolling through social media and seeing everybody and they're all matching pajamas and stuff. Yeah. And I'm starting to feel less of a Christmas. Where were our matching? You know what I mean? Like comparison is terrible. And I think like, just be a cheerleader for those that are, in a good place, but also know that we're all going through something. Yeah. And I think this time of the year is so hard for so many people. If I just talk about just, mentally, I think this has to be just a really challenging year for a lot of people, including ourselves. There's my father's death 9 years ago, Christmas. You can't help but think about them at this time of year. And I think one of the things I have learned through my experience 3 years ago is I really have learned how to take better care of myself. And I don't mean like I try to get rest. I try to eat better, but I say no a lot more than I used to.
That's what I was just thinking. I was just thinking that saying no, we are not coming. We are not doing this. Yeah. Right. Very powerful.
It is powerful because then you can say yes to the good things. And I think we have to learn to say no more and without having to give an explanation. I'm just sorry, I can't come. It's freeing.
It is freeing. And it is so difficult to be able to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any I want to say tips for people who just know in their gut that no, we should not be going to this or doing this, but they force themselves because it's an obligation. What would you say to somebody in that situation for them to be able to empower themselves to say no?
Yeah. Well, I think any relationship, whether it be a work relationship or a family, communication is key. And one of the things I really appreciate about my children as they become adults and started to have their own family is them like talking about like what they need for their family, you know, and I really appreciate that. And I, you know, like it might be, you know, hey mom, we need to leave on this day, even though celebrations are still going on. And we need to be okay with that. And so I am, I would say try to really communicate those boundaries up front instead of just like maybe getting up and leaving on a Saturday if they think you're going to stay till Sunday, you know,
Yes.
so communicate everything. Um, I think like for the non-holidays, I'll tell you what I do is I think you have to have some filters of what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to. Um, like for instance, even though we're empty nesters, I could be out of the house every single night and it's not going to impact very many people. My husband's
Mm-hmm.
probably going to be okay with it. And I wouldn't do this when my children was home, but even though my children aren't home, like I kind of have some boundaries of how many nights I'm going to be out of the house because I need to be
Yes.
home and just rest. So I would
Yes.
say have those boundaries. You know, let's go have coffee is something I think we hear a lot nowadays. But you know what? If somebody wants to have coffee on a Wednesday and I'm free on Wednesday, chances are I will probably say no, even if I'm available, because I was out Monday night. So,
Yes.
and I've learned that people are okay with that. So just really, I would say have some filters of you will always say yes to and what you will say no to. And I'll give you an example. I received a text last night from somebody who says, I have a friend who is experiencing panic attacks. Will you talk with her? Now, this is in the middle of Christmas holiday. It's in the
Yeah.
middle of me having 60 people in my house, but I will make time for that. There are some things that I will always make time for. And that is for me, I know probably for you, it's someone that's maybe going through a recovery. If
Mm-hmm.
someone needs to talk
This is a
about mental,
tough time for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But if somebody needs to talk about anxiety or depression, I'm going to make time for you. Yeah, yeah.
So I can't believe how fast this conversation is going. I was just looking at the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we're running out of time already. So
Oh, no.
I just wanted to give the opportunity for you that if there's anything on your heart, and at the same time, I just want to say that we'll have to continue this conversation,
Yeah.
have more because, yeah, for a million reasons. But back to what I was going to say
Yeah.
is if there's anything on your heart that you really feel that you'd like to share with the community, what would that be?
I think to I think everybody needs to have some type of mental health checkup.
Mm.
I think, you know, the best time to go to a doctor is when you're not sick. And I think the best time, I think a lot of people I was just talking to somebody yesterday who is really trying to overcome some things in her life and has never talked to anybody about it. And I think I would just say I am a huge proponent of counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to ask for help. It's not, I don't think it is never a sign of weakness. It's really a sign of strength.
Yes.
And so I would just say if there's anybody out there that's like, you know, I am depressed right now. Don't try to excuse it away. Go and talk to somebody. There is this abundant life, and it is not a life of you isolating yourself, disconnecting yourself. Um, it is a life. I think we're made for community,
I
and
agree.
don't be afraid to be a part of a community, and find somebody that you trust. Someone that you know. For me, I will probably always go to a Christian counselor just because I want the Bible to be the foundation of my counseling. But do not be afraid to ask for help. And we're all going through something.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
No matter how good it looks.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone has resonated with what you've said today or just feels like they'd like to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook, Joy Traxel. And then you can go to my website, joytraxel.com. And there's a place that you can send me a message or find me on social media. My email, joy.traxel. And feel free to add that to any show notes. But yeah, I would love to hear people's stories. There is power in a story, and I would love to hear theirs. And I would love to share more about mine if anybody resonated with this interview.
Awesome. So I'll also have your website right underneath this video. So
yes,
easily accessible.
Yeah.
So Joy, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your busy holiday, and grateful we were not interrupted by any toddlers.
Nope. They're 5, 3, and 2. So yeah, as soon as it's over, I think we're going to go make a gingerbread house. So.
Oh, how much fun!
Yeah. Well, thanks
awesome.
for having me. I look forward to talking further.
Yes, me too.